You've probably got this picture of this person in your head right now. Mid to low level performer is against any new initiative that you're pushing through. My argument here, or my statement, is that you should fire that person.
In today's episode, we challenge one of the most uncomfortable beliefs in leadership.
Well, it's also, if that's the case, would you and I have jobs?
Is the problem really the rep or how leaders invest their time?
They are not competent, or is it the leader's inability to motivate them to become competent?
Are a great performer, just not connect with the leader. And if I don't like my manager, I'm not going to feel willing to perform.
This episode breaks down when to train, when to move on, and what leaders often get wrong.
If they haven't got the will, they can't develop the skill.
If you lead a sales team, this conversation is one that you can't miss. Welcome to the Revenue Leaders Podcast.
You've probably got this picture of this person in your head right now. This mid to low level performer where is against any new initiative that you're pushing through. You want to upskill them, you want to give them some training to help bring them up to your top level performers, but they're against it. My argument here, or my statement, is that you should fire that person because they're not going to grow into the person that you want to be.
They're done.
Wow, they're done.
No, well, apparently they are.
Well,
pretty
if that's
ruthless.
the case, we would have fired Dave years ago.
Well, it's also, if that's the case, would you and I have jobs?
I was always a pretty good performer, I think. So
No, I mean,
But hear me out. Like, if you're trying to provide a staff member with the resources, they're not performing right now. They're not hitting their KPI. They're not hitting their goals, and you can see a gap. And you're like, "Hey, John Schmo, we're going to give you some sales training, or we're going to give you this piece of technology that's going to help you hit Sally McMahon's, level of performance." And Sally is always chomping at the bit. She wants the training. She wants the new tool. She's learning. I'll be like, stop wasting your time with John Schmo. Try and find another Sally.
So this is why I think we have jobs. Sales training, right? Or like us sharing that wisdom.
Yeah. But let's go
Talking
back
about
a
it.
step. The reason companies look to upskill, I mean, there's multiple reasons, but from a go-to-market perspective, right? Revenue Leaders Podcast, go-to-market perspective, training and development and enablement is brought in because performance, we want to improve performance from a go-to-market function. Would we agree that that's
I agree with that.
We want to get consistency across our go-to-market teams. We want to increase performance across every aspect of the funnel.
We're
right?
a high-performing sales organization, right?
Yeah.
It's why you get this sort of stuff into the company, and you spend the tens of thousands that it costs to get that sort of intel in there.
So the argument is, if they're not performing, fire them.
That's my argument. If they're not performing and they're unwilling to adopt and learn,
Yeah.
right, then they're not the right.
So if they haven't got the will, they can't develop the skill.
Oh, I like that.
That's
Yeah,
Craig
that's a good
Holmes. I can't own that. Craig Holmes is he taught me that statement. But okay. So that's your perspective. If they haven't got the will, they can't develop the skill. We've got to fire them.
Correct. Like and you'll probably come across this a lot in your years of coaching, right? You've got people who are well seasoned, been in sales for a long time, and you're brought in to come in and do like a sales kickoff or lead some initiative, and you can see they're sitting at the back of the room, they're rolling their eyes, and they're not even hitting their KPI, right? But because they've been selling for decades, they think they know everything.
Yeah.
Then you got this person that's probably a few years in, smashing their KPIs time and time again, and is tapping you on the shoulder as you leave the corridor saying, am I going to get a one-on-one?
Yeah.
What else can I be doing? Right?
Yeah, we see it all. I mean, Riggs, talk to us. Obviously, been around a while working in sales, enablement. But where do you sit on that perspective?
Like, I guess, the better question is how do you push someone up there, or do you don't?
What if you actually did both?
Oh.
And so with this,
Is that a sitting on the fence?
I am
Switzerland.
I am Switzerland right
Wow.
now. I don't believe you should invest too much time in your low performers. I completely agree with that. And in fact, the data, particularly say from LinkedIn, have actually seen this as well. So what you do is you give everything to your top performers and then be like, how do I bring the middle up?
Yeah.
Right. So I do agree with Dave, but I also agree with you. I do believe that training has a platform,
Yeah.
but I think only train the willing.
But hang on, we've hired. So let's just take it back, right? These people have been hired. When I say these people, your team members have been hired, and I have a perspective. So before I get to my perspective, let's just paint a neutral picture. We've hired individuals because we feel that they can they
Fulfill a
can
role.
achieve
Yeah.
the role's objective. Yeah. If they're not achieving the objective, is that, and they don't want training, is that actually, let me not talk about if they don't want training, but if they're not achieving the objectives, I want to go back to your statement before, Dave. Is that because they are not competent, or is it the leader's inability to motivate them to become competent?
It could be a combination of both.
Yeah.
It could be a leader issue. Like I've seen, people who I believe to be a great, can be a great performer or are a great performer, just not connect with the leader.
Yeah.
Therefore, don't want to put in the effort and don't want to work for that person. Because yes, you're working for a company, a brand, but effectively you're working for people.
Yeah.
And if I don't like my manager, I'm not going to feel willing to perform. It's like a football player doesn't like the coach and underperforms, and then they change coach, and all of a sudden is a rock star. So I do agree. It can be because of the leader. Yes.
It also, it's a can of worms as well, right? You open that up, it's growth mindset. It's also reward systems. It can be anything. Depends on the motivating factors of that individual. But if someone thinks that they don't need to change and don't need to be trained if they're underperforming, that to me is mindset, 100%, any day.
Yeah, I guess that's the key thing, right? Like if you're not performing and you're unwilling to change, I guess, well, what do you do? Like from your perspective, Louis, have you been able to turn a person like that around by helping them see something? Like, how have you done that? Because I think,
Pardon the interruption. I'm Luigi, one of the co-hosts here at Revenue Leaders. You'll notice we don't run sponsors or ads on Revenue Leaders.
This show is completely free. Our goal is to help you grow your revenue and build a sales system that you can rely on. We do have a favor to ask though.
If this episode gives you one clear idea that you can use, do these two things.
First, share it with one person, a founder, a revenue leader, or a rep who wants to grow their business. Just one. That's how the show grows.
Second, grab free access to our vault over at coachpilot.com/vault. Inside, you'll get the frameworks, templates, and short courses we use with clients to help them scale pipeline and increase win rates.
So the deal is simple. If you get value, share the episode with one person and go to coachpilot.com/vault to get the tools to put this into action. All right, let's get back to it.
So I think I'll give you my, obviously having sat in the seat where I've had the privilege to train so many salespeople, have I encountered salespeople that have been very resistant to training?
I think you mentioned you've ever been challenged in a live scenario that
100%.
they don't need what you're doing on stage.
100%. I've had individuals walk out of my training session.
That's
One of
brutal.
ours.
Look, I've had individuals.
They wanted to come back, if that helps.
Yeah, and they wanted to come back after they heard the results that the people that stayed. They actually wanted to come back.
Well, now
right?
self-promotion here.
But when we think about it, right? Like if I look back at the people, I find personally, this is just some of the things that I've found in training. I find that some salespeople are resistant because they might have had a training or a trainer in their business previously that potentially didn't really walk the talk. What do I mean by that? Is someone that hasn't really carried a bag for a while. They haven't really been executing on the things that they've been talking about.
Bit out of
for a while.
touch.
Yeah, they've been out of touch. So they're like getting advice on someone who might have been able to do it back in the day, but they're not doing it today. And so, and again, I'm a sales professional, right? That's my primary function. Yes, I work in enablement and go to market, but every single day I'm selling. And I look at that, and I've gone to training sessions all over the world, Dave. You know how much I've invested in my self-development. And I want to go to and hear from people that are better than me, but they're doing it today.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the number one way to bridge that gap, because the topic we're talking about, do I train my staff or don't I train my staff? I think the reality is, if you're trying to build a high-performing culture, you're going to have an enablement strategy that's continuous, right? You can't just do tick a box today and let it be done for the year, right? That's not going to drive. I mean, you don't see Real Madrid or the best team in the world, AC Milan. You don't see them just doing one training session a week. They're repetitive, right? They're working on the basics every single day. So if you're a sales leader, go-to-market leader, you know that training is a critical part in driving your go-to-market teams, right? And as great as it sounds, I'll just train some, I won't train the other. For me, that's not the right answer. It's about how do I try to get everybody engaged? And in the event I can't get them engaged, what's my next action, right?
Sack 'em.
But that's when performance improvement plans kick in.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where a plan of moving them out, or as Regan says, moving them to a point of mid or out is critical. But I actually think we've got to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. We've got to sort of think about and drawing a line in the sand. And that's what I do in my training session. You know, I actually hit that head on. I hit that objection head on. So some of you probably listening to this and going, you know what, why are we doing this? Who is this guy? What am I going to get out of it? I try to hit that head on. But then I try to separate that to say, give me an opportunity to build some rapport with you. Let me showcase some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about. If you still feel strongly about your perspective that this is right for you, don't do the training.
There's a few pieces to that I want to unpack with you. So you were actually saying with that as well, really leaders or their trainers should truly practice what they preach. That would be a great takeaway, right? And then the other piece of that is really getting down like under the hood about why they're rejecting training. Like there's probably
there's a reason.
I'm worried about being seen, like a lack of capability or a lack of knowledge, or the market's moving too fast, or like whatever it might be, a fear of rejection. It could be anything, but there is something in that as well that you kind of want to uncover.
Right? Because potentially it's like, hang on a second, are you, whether it's high performing or not, the fact that you're getting training is implying I'm doing something wrong. And I think sometimes we talk about messaging and positioning in selling is so important. It's just as important when you're trying to implement an enablement strategy. You've got to position it in a way that it's not about telling someone you're doing something wrong. Like we're actually trying to build on the things that you're doing really well. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the times organizations, where they miss from a transformation perspective is they're not packaging it in a way that really talks to an individual and reduces that tension, right? Because it's really hard to get someone to a point of acceptance when they're rejecting what you're giving them, right? And again, I think that before putting the blanket across the team and saying, you're performing well, you're not, I'm going to cut you. We've got to go, hang on a second, let's understand what's stopping them. Let's understand what's the barrier, because potentially what we might be doing is we let them go, we bring more people in, and it's a vicious circle that continues. Yeah.
If you're bringing in the wrong people, yeah. I guess like the other devil's advocate to that is, timing, right? If I'm in a big corporate and, I've got time on my side where I can train this person for 6 to 8 months, give him the benefit of the doubt, give him a cuddle, try and get him there. But if I've got runway, I'm a business that's doing a couple mil, runways, probably 6 months out, we need to hit certain revenue goals. Otherwise, we're closing the doors or we're going to face a down round. I don't have time's not my luxury.
Yeah, but there's the loop, Dave. Like that's a different scenario, right? And this is where we've got to hire the individuals that are the right fit for the business at that time.
Right time. Yep.
Because I've seen it. I've coached reps in big organizations, really big organizations, very experienced guys, top end of town when it comes to package, and they're brought in, and there's the pressure to them is very different than a startup.
Yeah.
Because they've got very different pressures, right? Yes, one would say the enterprise, they've got to perform faster, et cetera, but you are right. Cash burn and a business that's potentially down round, et cetera, is very different to an established business. And again, I've often said if you're hiring at a pace, high velocity, you need revenue today. Potentially getting that really experienced enterprise grade that needs that 12 months runway is the wrong person for you.
Yeah.
So potentially what we're doing is we're hiring people and we're setting them up to fail when we hire them. So this is where the loop has to be closed. Like who are we hiring? Are they the right person for the business's maturity today?
Do they have the right support as soon as they get on the job? Yeah.
Are we just throwing them in the deep end and saying, we want you to sink or swim? A lot of startups are built like that. I've been brought in. I built a career. I've been brought into startups, Series A, Series B, Series D, Dave. You know this. They might have raised 30, 40 mil and they've literally got a team and they've got no playbooks. They've got no sales process. They've gone out because they've raised and they've hired a shitload of people. And then they're like, holy crap, we're getting such inconsistent performance. Do I sack them? Do I rehire? Well, hang on a second. How have you set them up to succeed?
Yeah.
There's so many questions that need to be answered here without just saying, I'm going to fire you.
It sounds like it's a big, it depends.
It depends. But I think there's so many nuances to the question, right? And again, I think the other part of the question is expecting training to fix a problem. And this is where I often, I'll never subscribe, but very seldom will I do a project and they say revenue's down, we need training. And training,
you wouldn't think
no
to go
way.
to
No.
training, right?
But that's what so many leaders do. They're like,
Yeah.
I got an issue with revenue. I'll get trained. They can't close. They can't prospect. But then that's when a little bit more discovery is required to understand, okay, if you want training and managing expectations, training is not going to fix this problem if you haven't got the foundations in place, if you don't have a playbook, if your CRM is not configured properly, if coaching is not enabled, whatever it is, right? There are so many nuances to that particular question.
I mean, that in itself is you need to focus on diagnosis rather than speculation
100%.
in that sort of sense.
How many times? Like if you look at it, if you go on Google and look how many people are looking for training around prospecting, training around closing, right? And they think, well, hang on, if I get that, my people will perform better.
But then you ask the question, it's like, oh, do you have a methodology? No. Do
No, I don't have a methodology.
you have a CRM? No.
Right? Do you know what separates your top performer from your bottom performer? No. Great. Let's train your staff. We'll fix it. We'll
So
pay
what
trainer.
you're saying is no, you should fire them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. There you go. Find
That's
more
right.
people that are like the best one there, like Sally
right,
at the
isn't it?
beginning of the
Yeah.
pod.
And that's why we're doing a competition here at Coach Pilot, and between us three, and the one that loses gets fired.
We just changed the dynamic.
I do want, we'll wrap up every season with a big trophy in the middle.
Yeah, I like that.
See who gets it.